So, in today's video, I wanted to discuss some maps that I'd like to see in Battlefield 4. I've been thinking about this for a while, what with all the information and all the rumours that we've been hearing about a possible 6th DLC for Battlefield 4. I've been kind of thinking what I would want in the game again if it was to come round. From the information that's been coming out and from hints and little bits of information, all those different kind of things from the developers, especially David Sirland, the lead developer at DICE LA for this game, it seems to be that they're focusing on Battlefield 3. But there have been some hints that maybe we could see some Battlefield 2 remakes as well. I know, I think that would be really cool, but what really got me thinking was that Battlefield 3 was one of the greatest games that I've ever played. Sure, it had its problems, just like Battlefield 4 has, and I still think that's a fairly good game. Battlefield 3 was the thing that got me into PC gaming, and there were some maps that have stuck with me from that game that aren't in Battlefield 4, that didn't make it with the Second Assault DLC, and I'm going to showcase a few maps today, and you'll probably agree with quite a lot of them, but I do want to get your opinion as well. So if you've got some maps that you want to see, make sure you leave a comment today. So first of all, we have Grand Bazar. Now, this for me was probably the greatest conquest map available in Battlefield 3. It rivaled Caspian Border for just how good conquest can be. But it differed quite a lot from what we know a conquest map to actually be like in the Battlefield series. It wasn't your open warfare, all-out vehicle warfare mixed in with infantry combat. This map focused around the infantry combat rather than going with the vehicles instead. You did have the option for tanks and Humvees and things like that, but mainly it focused around the B flag right in the middle of the alleyway of Grand Bazar. And this is where I spent a lot of time playing Battlefield 3. A lot of people called it a meat grinder. It wasn't as meat grindish, if that's even a word, as Metro was, but I still think it made for some really good infantry gameplay. One of the main things that I really liked about Grand Bazar was the destruction and the way that you could bring down walls on top of tanks, enemy players. Overall, it just gave a really nice feeling to the map, and you never really knew if you were standing out in the open next to a building if you were going to survive or not. Loads of RPGs flying around. The Expo with the explosive bolt really could do quite a lot of damage on this map, especially in that alleyway in the middle, and that is where everything happened. This map, for me at least, also worked quite well on Rush. I really liked the fact that it was close quarters infantry gameplay. If you could get past the first set of MCOMs, they were the hardest ones to get past as the attacker. It was pretty much a straight line from your spawn all the way to both MCOMs. It could be quite difficult to get them sort of outright first of all, but if you could make a quick dash to the first set of MCOMs and at least set off one of them and set up camp by one of them, you might have stood a chance of getting past them, and it did play out as quite a good rush map, I think. Another map that I'd really like to see return in Battlefield 4 would be Seine Crossing, and it's for similar reasons to why I want Grand Bazar to come back. It offered a really good infantry and vehicle conquest experience. Again, it wasn't a vehicle heavy map, but you did have access to MBT tanks, LAVs, and I think a Humvee as well. So there was a nice sort of variation of gameplay there, and if you did have a tank and you had your wits about you, you could dominate the map, especially over by the river. But the reason again that I really like this map is it offered some great battlegrounds for infantry combat. It was a little bit bigger than Grand Bazar, and there was a variation in gameplay and specifically levels as well. There was a lot of vertical gameplay. You could shoot out of windows and different buildings and things like that. So you had to sort of be a little bit more aware than you were on Grand Bazar. But because there were so many different locations that you could fight in, it never really got boring as a map, because you could be fighting over one side, you could be fighting over the other side, you could be in the courtyard, you could be down by the river. So there were loads of different battlegrounds there, so you never really got into a place where you knew the map was going to get stuck, which could have happened on Grand Bazar. You can just get locked in the corridor in the middle. With Seine Crossing, you didn't really have that. You kind of just got on with conquest, you played out as much as you could, and you fought over those flags in various different situations, and it never got boring for me because no round was the same. It wasn't like Metro. You didn't get stuck. You were always moving round. And I think that's why it stood out as a map for me. It was a really, really good conquest map. And the third map, Noshahr Canals. I don't know why this was omitted from Battlefield 4's Second Assault DLC. Please don't tell me it wasn't one of the most played maps, because how could it not be? This map could rule all maps. If there was a map to be the ruler of all the other maps, it would be Noshahr Canals for me. If you played TDM on this, you will know just how addictively fun this map could be. The tight corridors in the middle of all the containers was just absolutely chaotic. There was no way for you to actually get past another player half the time. You would sort of crash into each other and would cause a lock, and you could maybe get a few kills there. If you were on the receiving end of that though, it could be rather frustrating. But that map was confidently one that I could say that I ground out a lot of my weapons playing TDM on that map. And to be honest, it had its faults. If you were playing with any more than about 24 players on TDM on this map, then the spawns just became unusable. It would spawn you in front of enemies just because it didn't have anywhere else to put you. It either put you there, or it put you miles back across the map where you didn't want to be. So it would choose to put you next to an enemy instead. And yes, a lot of people did get frustrated, but there are still people out there right now. There are still hundreds of TDM servers for Battlefield 3 that are specifically dedicated to Noshahr Canals, whether it be sniper only, like bolt action only, expo only, knife only, pistol only, or even your standard TDM. It's one of the most played maps in Battlefield 3, and I cannot understand why it never came in the second Assault DLC. So if there was one map that I could have back from Battlefield 3, and even if it was only for TDM, bear in mind this was a good Conquest and Rush map as well, I would have Noshahr Canals. But what maps would you want? Would you want something like, I don't know, would you want one of the DLC maps to come back? Would you want Epicenter? Would you want Keosar Railroad from the Endgame DLC? Let me know down in the comments today. I'd really like to know what maps you would like to see in Battlefield 4 in its future, if that was to come about. But that is the end of the video, so thank you very much for watching. If you could leave a rating, that would be great, and as I've said, comments are always appreciated. But until next time, my name is Westy, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.